I'm going to show you 3 slides, okay, and I want to answer those questions in a matter of 10 seconds. So please be ready with your chats, but at the same time, please also focus on the question, okay? So question is very simple. The first question is coming on your screen. Please tell me, what is it that you're able to see? What are you able to see on your screen? Quickly, 10 seconds. Huh? All these answers have to come in 10 seconds. Yes. Now let me ask you the second question. Again, I want your response in 10 seconds. The question is, a bat and ball together costs 1100. The bat is costing 1000 more than the ball. What is the cost of the ball? Now, let me tell you, 100 is the wrong answer. 100 is the wrong answer. Okay. Now what we will do is, I will give you 2 minutes. I will give you 2 minutes to solve this question again. Take your time, read the question carefully. I will also give you a hint, how do you solve it? Now, whatever value we have to calculate, so in this case, we have to find value of the ball. So let us assume that it is x, okay? And if ball is x, bat is 1000 more than ball, so bat is equal to x plus 1000, correct? So x plus 1000 is equal to 1100. Now you solve it and tell me what is the value of x. So x plus 1000 is equal to 1100. So 2x plus 1000 is equal to 1100. Therefore 2x is equal to 100. And therefore x is equal to 50. So ball is 50, bat is 1050, right? Very good. Now let us see what happened when we were solving this question. Why did majority of us get 100 as the answer, and I said that 100 is the wrong answer? Why did this happen with us? Very simple question, right? But why did we make this mistake? So let me now introduce you to a very important concept. So now let us understand what is happening inside us. And this is what happens when we take decisions also, when we do investments also, right? So let me introduce you to system 1 and system 2. Now this system 1 and system 2 was identified by a gentleman by the name of Daniel Kahneman, okay, who was a psychologist who also won the Nobel Prize for this invention, okay. What he says is that inside our brain, there are 2 systems that work. One is called as system 1, the other is called as system 2. And he says that both these systems work in different style. Okay. Now tomorrow, don't go to a MRI center, or a CT center just to check where our system 1 and system 2 are. Okay. These are hypothetically created structures. There's no physical structure inside our brain. So what is this system 1 and system 2? Daniel Kahneman says system 1 is a fast thinking system, which means it is instinctive. It wants to give responses very fast, and it can only do those things where there is very little effort required or there is no effort required. Getting it? At the same time, system 1 is an emotional system. Please remember this is a very, very important point. System 1 is emotional. So let me repeat. System 1 is fast. It wants to give answers very quickly, without thinking. Without thinking, it responds. It gives answers. And it can only solve those questions where there is little effort required or no effort required. And because it gives responses or reacts without thinking, it is emotional in nature. Okay? So when you looked at the first image which I showed of the lady, this question went to your brain. The system 1 was already ready, active. And please note, system 1 is always active. Even while you're sleeping, it is active. So system 1 was ready. It saw the face. It quickly told you, boss, this is very simple question. Angry lady. Quickly, all of you responded, right? There was no effort required. So your system 1 was able to give the answer in a jiffy. Now let's understand system 2. Kahneman says system 2 is a slow thinking system, which means it thinks, then responds. Okay, it thinks and then gives the answers. It is logical, it is rational in nature. But for system 2 to work, system 2 will only do those stuff or things where there is an effort required. Where there's an effort required, complex situations are the only things that system 2 can solve. But the problem is, system 2 is always dormant. It is sleeping, always sleeping. We have to drink one nice, strong filter coffee, okay, and then it will wake. But system 1 is always awake. Getting it? Now, when I gave you the second situation, which is bat and ball, what happened? Now, the question came to your brain. The brain saw the question and it said, well, this is the calculation that is involved in this. And if I have to solve it, I have to put effort in this, right? I have to put effort in this. System 1 saw this. It said, boss, this is not my cup of tea. I cannot solve it. I can do only simple things in life. So you please go to system 2. But system 2 was sleeping. So system 2 is sleeping. You said, forget it, yeah. Why should I bother that sleep? The system 2, it is sleeping nicely. Let me not disturb it. Let me give the answer using system 1 only. So what did you do? You saw 100, 1100, you saw 1000. You simply subtracted. You put the answer as 100. Getting it? This is what happened with each one of us. Obviously, there was a pressure that I created. Subconsciously, I fed your mind and brain that you have to respond using system 1 because I told you to respond in 10 seconds. That's a deliberate ploy that I put. Then when we saw that 100 is a wrong answer, I gave you 2 minutes. Why did I give that 2 minutes? So that now you can use your system 2 to solve the same question. And when you use your system 2 to solve the same question, you get the right answer. I hope you're getting this point. Very, very important. System 1 and system 2, this is how they work. Now, the problem is what most of us face as human beings. As human beings, all of us want shortcuts. Yes or no? All of us want shortcuts. And I'm sure everybody does this in your life. Many of you might be driving two-wheelers. Now, imagine this situation, wherever you're staying, there must be one lane which must be a dedicated one way, okay, which means only one side traffic can go. You know this. But despite that, what do? Because if you take the normal route, okay, you have to go on the other side of the road. You will have to travel a longer distance. So petrol will also go up. So what do? You put that two-wheeler in the one-way lane also. You will travel in the opposite direction. So you are taking a shortcut, right? Many we escape, nobody catches us. But some days the traffic wala will catch us. The traffic policeman will catch up and then we have to pay a challan. So this is what happens when we take shortcuts. In life, we may escape with those shortcuts. But in investments, we will never escape with those shortcuts. And therefore, this is very, very important. Now, the problem again is, because as human beings, all of us like to take shortcuts in life, and none of us want to put the effort. So given a choice between easy work versus difficult work, all of us would want to take the easy work, right? Because we don't want to put the effort. That's 98% of human behavior. So if we do not want to put the effort, what do we rely on? We rely on system 1. So there are situations where system 2 is supposed to be taking the decisions in our life, but we end up taking decisions using system 1. And I said system 1 is emotional in nature, not necessarily the right decision. Please remember this, especially when it comes to investments. Even otherwise, you will find that majority of us, most of the time, use system 1 for making decisions. Every day we take decisions. Every day. What time to get up? What should we have for breakfast? What should we have for lunch? Should I go for work today? Should I go for walking, etc., etc.? These are all decisions that we take every day. Now, the simple question to all of you is, reflect back after today's session, reflect and see all decisions that you take in your life. Are you using system 1 or are you using system 2? Ideally, the situation should decide what system should be used. If something requires immediate action, you have to use system 1. If something requires deliberation, thinking, you should use system 2. But you will be surprised to know that 95% of the time, we only use system 1 for all decisions. And you can realize and understand now how we can go along with those decisions. Getting it? So this is what is about the system 1 and system 2. Let us see some impact of all of these on investments. Now, system 1 and system 2 both are present inside our brains. When I say present, again, it's an hypothetical situation, and they're not physically present. Now, it is similar to a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law staying in the same house. Okay, in Hindi we call this a saas bahu. So mother-in-law and daughter-in-law staying in the same house. Now you can imagine the situation. What happens? There is always a cold war between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. No matter how good the daughter-in-law is, no matter how good the mother-in-law is. Yes? Maattu ponnum maamiyarkum eppume chande nadandhu irukum. Right? Yes or no? So this is what happens with system 1 and 2. System 1 and system 2 are your mamiyar and maattu ponnum. They are your mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Both are sitting in the same house. And each one of them is pulling you, saying, please listen to me, please listen to me. So the wife is also telling you to listen, mother is also asking you to listen. So what do? Sometimes we support our mother, sometimes we support our wife. But we support our mother knowing fully well that mother is wrong. Or we support our wife despite knowing the fact that she is wrong. But why do we do that? So that there's harmony in the family, that everybody is able to cope up, right? But when it comes to investments, if we apply this, it can result in catastrophe. Getting it? So what happens is when you knowingly, unknowingly support somebody, okay, knowing fully that they are wrong, then what are we doing? We are essentially showing bias, correct? So we are essentially showing bias. So we say they are biased, right? So you are supporting somebody, which means you are showing bias. And that is what happens in investments. We call them as investment biases. So there are two types of investment biases. One is emotional bias, the other is cognitive bias. Okay, let us not get into technicalities of this. I will try and explain it in a very simple language. Emotional is very simple to understand, right? It is coming from feelings. It is based on emotions. Cognitive is rules of thumb. And this comes basically from our belief system. Okay, let me give a very simple situation and I will explain this cognitive. So imagine that it is night, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the night. Okay, it is 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the night. You are stuck on the highway. You are alone. You are stuck on the highway and you need help. There are two people who come to you for help. One is coming in a plain shirt and pant. So normal shirt and pant. One person approaches you in a normal shirt and pant. The other person comes in a police uniform. Whose help will you take? Now understand. So what you're telling is nothing but cognitive bias. So what is the cognitive bias? It's based on belief system. What is the belief system? The belief system says that if somebody is dressed in a police uniform, he is a policeman. And if he's a policeman, I should trust him for the help, right? And this is what it is. Getting it? So this is how it is cognitive bias. Emotional, we have already said it is fairly simple. Now, these are the two types of biases that play when it comes to investments. Now let us see a couple of situations, okay, and then I will explain a couple of biases and then we will conclude today's program, right? So we have understood what system 1 is, system 2 is, why these biases come, we have also understood that. We have looked at broadly the type of biases. Let's quickly look at a couple of examples. Now let us assume that you have gone to a new city. Okay, you have gone to a new city. You have gone to the new city and you are feeling hungry now. So you go out searching for a restaurant. Okay. Now you go and search a restaurant, you find there are two restaurants close to each other. One of the restaurant is empty The other restaurant is full. I repeat, you're going to that city for the first time. You know nothing about the city. You see two restaurants, one is empty, the other is full. Which restaurant will you go and have your food? The full one or the empty one? Okay, now this is what happens. Now, why do you choose the restaurant which is full? Because one year gone to this city, it's a new city to you. You don't know which are the best restaurants, which are the good joints. So, what do you go by? You go by where there is a rush. Okay, and the fact that there are people who are sitting inside this restaurant gives you the comfort. Okay, yes, people have tried and tested. It gives you the comfort. It gives you the comfort that people are eating in this restaurant as compared to the other restaurant where it is empty. So if people are eating, which means this is a good joint, this is a good restaurant where good food is served, perhaps the service is also good. So this is what we call as the herd mentality. Okay, herd mentality. So what happens in herd mentality is essentially we look for social proof. So if there are thousands of people doing the same thing, we feel that it is the right thing to do, and we also do that thing. Very simple example. Many people buy Apple iPhones. Why? Because in their social circle, in their relatives, their friend circle, people are having iPhones. So I should also buy an iPhone. Getting it? So we essentially try to copy the behavior of others blindly without realizing are we doing the right thing or not. We just blindly copy the behavior of others. And this applies to a lot of discretionary expenses that we do. So people today go on international trips. Forget the COVID part of it. But before that, people used to go on international trips. For all of us, when we were young, even going to our native place once in a year was a dream. In a 3-sleeper car train, you know. Today, people are doing international trips, and majority of these people who go on international trips go on personal loan. They take a loan to go on international trips. Why? Because somebody in their family, somebody in their society, their neighbor has gone to Dubai, Singapore. They feel they should also go. Please remember, what we see is not wealth. What we see is not wealth. Okay, and it is very easy for people to fake wealth. Just by showing that they are spending so much does not necessarily mean they are having enough wealth. Perhaps a lot of those things that they're doing is on borrowed money. It could be on loan. But we tend to blindly follow them, ignoring certain basic principles of investments and finance. So just do not blindly copy what others are doing. This also applies when it comes to investing in mutual funds. Now, how does this happen? I have seen so many instances of people who have purchased the same mutual fund scheme as what their relatives have purchased or their friends have purchased or their office colleagues have purchased. And when we ask them, why did you buy this particular scheme? Oh, because my friend Ravi has also purchased the same scheme. My brother-in-law has also purchased the same scheme. Therefore, I also purchased the same scheme. Please understand, there are so many mutual fund schemes that are available. All schemes are not right for everybody. There is something called as risk assessment. You just cannot blindly take a mutual fund. And this is what many people do going on Google. Google will throw up only the top performers. And the same funds cannot be applicable to everybody because everyone has a different appetite for taking risk. Your goals will be different from mine. I may want to invest for 5 years. You may want to invest for 3 years. I cannot have the same product. So herd mentality plays an important role. We end up taking the wrong investment products and then we get stuck. Other thing that we have seen is, as we discussed earlier, the majority of investors come when the market is at a high level. So everybody is coming to equity, you also come to equity. Everybody starts buying gold, you also start buying gold. So I do a lot of investor programs. At the end of every session, I get a common question. At least the last 5-6 months, I have got this question. Should I invest in gold? Why? Because gold has started performing, let me also start buying it. Okay, so this is how it works. So please avoid this. Second situation to all of you. Let us assume hypothetically that you have made 2 investments at the same time. One was investment A, where you had put 5 lakh rupees, and that is currently valued at 7 lakh today. The other investment you had put 10 lakh rupees, it is also valued at 7 lakhs today. You need 7 lakh rupees. Which of these will you redeem or exit? A or B. Both of them were started at the same time. 5 became 7, second one 10 became 7. Now let us analyze this. Okay, let us analyze this. Investment A, 5 lakhs has become 7 lakhs. So which means it is a performing investment, right? It is doing well. In investment B, you had put 10 lakhs, it has become 7 lakhs, right? Which means it is not performing, it is loss making for you. So what are you doing? If you're saying you're removing A, it is like you're removing Virat Kohli from the cricket team. Virat Kohli is performing and you're removing the performer from the cricket team. You're willing to wait for Rishabh Pant to deliver. Rishabh Pant is not performing, but you're saying, oh, let us give him few more chances here. Let us wait for 2-3 years more. Rishabh Pant will perform in some or the other game. He will perform. Let us wait for him. Virat Kohli, no, we should remove because he's performing. This is what is your. So people have said A. This is what your answer is. So I'm not saying. Okay, perhaps again you have taken system 1 decision. So again, okay, see what happens. We ideally should be using system 2 to take decisions, especially investment decision. But again, we are using system 1 because that's our predominant behavior. Okay. So nonetheless, so be careful about this. So what we tend to in investments also, good performing investments we exit. Bad investments we keep on holding for donkey years in anticipation that someday it will come up. Oh, it is my hard-earned money. God will not be so unjust to me. Some or the other day he will get that money following. Let me keep on waiting for another 5 years, 10 years. No. If that investment is fundamentally wrong, it is always advisable to get out of it. I'm not saying that whenever you see losses, you should start coming out of the investments, and that's wrong. I'm just trying to say that if there is fundamentally that investment is wrong, it could be a mutual fund scheme, it could be a stock, and you have given enough time for that investment to deliver performance, despite that it is not happening, then it is advisable to get out of those stocks and investments rather than holding it for another 5 years. Tomorrow, don't start pestering Mr. Ramling, oh, sir, 20 rupees NAV has become 19 rupees, 1 rupee loss. Sir told in the session that, you know, if it is a loss making investment, you should come out of it. Don't do that. That is wrong. Okay? Right. Let's come to this. So this, what you have demonstrated is called as loss aversion. Now, what it says is that as human beings, we do not want to take loss. Now, why does this happen? Because when you face a loss, so for example, let us imagine that morning you lost 1,000 rupees. You went for walking, jogging, whatever. Okay, you tried to remove the kerchief from your pocket. There was 1,000 rupees also inside your pocket. That fell down. So you lost 1,000 rupees in the morning. So obviously you're feeling pain, okay, from that loss. Evening you get 1,000 rupees from somewhere. Somebody comes and gives 1,000 rupees to you. How will you describe your day? How will you describe your day? Morning you lost 1,000. Evening you're getting 1,000. How will you describe your day? Will you say that it was a good day? It was an okay day for you? It was a bad day for you? So you try doing this. Okay. You will try doing this. When you actually end up losing 1,000 rupees in the morning, you get 1,000 in the evening. Logically speaking, you should be happy and satisfied. No profit, no loss. But majority of us will not be happy, I can tell you. Because when I lose 1,000, I want at least 1,500 rupees so that I can compensate the pain from that 1,000 rupee loss. Because the pleasure that I get from some profit is small versus the pain that I get from a loss. They are not equal. Therefore, I want more money as profit to compensate for that loss. So this is called loss aversion. Now let us see in investment, how does this work? So as I gave the previous example, people tend to hold on to their loss-making investments for donkey years. I don't know how many of you are into stocks. I will give you one classic example. 2008, Reliance Power IPO had come. Okay, Reliance Power IPO had come, and this was a huge IPO in terms of so many people wanting to get into this IPO. There's a lot of hype created around this IPO. So I remember I was in the securities business that time, and we used to have rickshawalas, milkmen wanting to open a demat account just to invest in this IPO. That was the craze behind this IPO. So the issue price was 450 rupees, if I recollect. And on the listing day, only for the first 4 minutes, the stock was trading above 450. So I think it went to about 530 or 540 only for 4 minutes, when it got listed. And after that, in the life of in the last 12 years, it has never gone beyond the issue price. Okay. So what has happened? People invested in this stock. 450. Not many would have exited in the first 4 minutes. The same day after that 4 minutes, the stock finally closed at about 350. Then Anil Ambani announced some bonus in that, which brought the price to about 260, 270. Okay. After that, 12 years have passed. The stock price has never gone beyond that issue price or the cost price. But you will find a lot of investors were still holding Reliance Power in the portfolio. Okay. Reliance Power in the portfolio. The stock is now trading at about 3 rupees. 3 rupees. 1000 rupees for 450 rupees share, trading at 3 rupees. Correct? So this is what happens with loss averse investors. Keep on holding to dead investments for long periods of time. The other kind of loss averse investors, what do they do? The moment they say profit in their portfolio, they will suddenly call up Mr. Ramalingam, say, sir, I want to book the profits. I'm worried because this profit which I'm seeing today, tomorrow it can become a loss. So let us completely come out of the investment, sir. Let us book the profits. So they exit from profitable investments prematurely. Third set of people is where majority of Indians are. They don't come to equities only. Mr. Ramalingam says that you come to SIPs, start SIPs. They ask the question, so is there a possibility of loss? And Mr. Ramalingam says yes. In the short term, there is a possibility of loss. Oh, if that is the case, I will never want to make this investment. I will never come to equities. And this is where majority of Indians are today. They still continue to invest in fixed deposits, PPFs, NSCs, etc., etc. So they completely avoid investment where there's even a remote chance of a loss. But who is going to lose in the end? People who don't get into equities or into equity mutual funds. Okay. Fourth, people, because they constantly want to book profits, they become a speculator. Every day they will track the NAV. The moment the NAV goes above the cost price, they will do a redemption against it. So your transaction cost will only go up. Okay, you will become a speculator rather than an investor. So this is how loss aversion impacts us. Great. Okay, this is the final situation that I'm giving, and then we will wind up today's session. And this is something which many of us would have faced in our life. So what does Mr. Gaurav Jain do? He takes his four-wheeler out. Okay, he travels for about 1 kilometer, comes on the highway. And Bangalore traffic, we know how it is. He comes on the main road of the highway, and suddenly on the highway, he sees there's a huge traffic jam. Okay, huge traffic jam. And what does he say? So he goes and stands in one of those lines. So his car is now positioned in one of the lanes. There's one lane to his left, one lane to his right, and all the three lanes are jam-packed. Okay, all of them are stuck. 15 minutes pass. None of these lanes are opening. None of these lanes are moving. Okay. After 15 minutes, Mr. Jain is in the middle lane. The left line starts moving. Okay, left lane starts moving. I'm sure many of you would have experienced, even if you're not driving, but then if you're standing in some queue line, you would have witnessed this happening. Okay, the line in which you are standing is not moving, the other line is moving. So same is happening with Mr. Gaurav Jain now. He's in the middle lane. After 15 minutes, the left lane is started moving. Now, what does Gaurav Jain do? What is happening in his mind? Oh shit, yeah. Why does this happen to me always? I am stuck in the wrong lane. So he's using all his driving skills now. Okay, using all his driving skills, he somehow manages to put his vehicle in the left lane. And guess what? After Mr. Gaurav Jain goes on the left lane, the left lane stops. And the middle lane and the right lane starts moving now. Has this happened with many of you? Yes? I'm sure this would have happened even in lines when you're standing in queue. Our queue does not move, but the other queues are, we go to that queue, suddenly our original queue starts moving. This is always happening, right? Yes. Now, what did Gaurav Jain do? He moved his car from one lane to the other lane. What prompted him to do this? The fact that the left lane is moving made him to change his lane from his original lane to the left lane. And after going that, he realizes that this lane is now stopped. My original lane has started moving. Now again, he might try to come back to his original lane, right? And the cycle keeps on repeating. Now this, many people do it in investments also. This is what we call as the recency bias, lane changing. Now, what is this recency bias? Recency bias is I tend to change my investments. I tend to change my investments based on what is happening in the immediate past. Okay? To give you a classic example, last 6-7 months, gold has performed extremely well. Extremely well. Now, suddenly people say that I should make investments in gold. Okay? The last 2 months, equity has performed. The same set of people will now say, let me remove the money from gold, let me come to equity because equity started performing. So my lane has started, this lane has started working, let's go to that lane. Okay? Now this is what happens in investment. People tend to keep following the asset classes, which tends to perform well in a particular year. So if last year equity, so let us assume that 2020, so we are the fag end of this year, let us assume that 2020 equity will be the number one asset class. Okay, hypothetically, let's assume that. So what will happen? 2021, you will find a lot of investors will come to equities. Okay, they will put entire money in equities. But is there a guarantee that 2021 equity will be the number one asset class? There is no guarantee. Let us assume 2021 debt or fixed income is the best asset class. So 2021 they will observe, end of 2021 they will see, oh, debt was number one in 2021. Let us move to debt now. So 2022, your entire portfolio will shift to debt, assuming that 2022 also debt will be number one. Is there a guarantee? No. So if 2022 gold is number one, then 2023 they will shift the entire money to gold. So they keep on changing the lane. Okay, and this is very dangerous. This is very disastrous in investments because your transaction costs will go up. There is no certainty that the asset class that you're chasing will continue be the number one asset class in the future, immediate future at least. Okay, or people tend to allocate a lot of money to equities or gold, which is perhaps again not correct from their risk appetite perspective. You cannot have somebody who is conservative investor because equity has done well suddenly shift 80% of his investments to equities. That's wrong. Getting it? So you have to be very careful about this. You have to avoid this. So these are the biases that keep happening inside us. So this is some data point which talks about how different asset classes, okay, on a year-on-year basis have performed. So what I'm trying to show here is that last 10 years, calendar year returns, which was Jan to December returns, out of 10 years, equity is number one in 4 years. Okay? Debt is number one in 3 years. Gold is number one in 4 years. There's 1 year where there's overlap between debt and gold. So what you're trying to say is that you cannot have one asset class which is number one all year, every year, which is difficult. And you cannot keep chasing them. You cannot chase the number ones. And this is what happens even in mutual funds I have seen. People go and start investing in mutual fund schemes based on performance. Oh, last year this fund was the number one performing scheme. So they put their money in that scheme. Is there a guarantee that that scheme will be number one next year? There's no guarantee. Then next year again they change. Oh, this other scheme is doing was number one. So let me now move to that scheme. So only you're keeping rotating your investments. There is churning in your portfolio. There's transaction cost involved. You might also have to pay taxes. So please understand this is not the right thing to do. This is definitely not the right thing to do. This can be very, very disastrous. Okay, so please avoid this. Rotation and change laning is okay. Great.